chere ba no tia se ne se adwumaden se ko voma adwuma wontimi yen so botik koko wontimi enten adwuma ho yen koko kura wontimi ba na ofo no se bokoko no
ebinim efa child labor eye media ensen kola omunya enfie edunwotwe ekom na ombeye like to say ebia ihu se ahokyere enti obitumi de ne ba ekoye adwuma eden okobubuja ebia efso abo akola no ahoden so ade a ensa akola no oye na odneye like to say mfa se tie eyeku adwuma akola no se ye di akola no eko ne di akola no kopiti kokoso enso be awofo no bitumi tam ye nkwala no o ye kopiti kokoso be within be 10 minutes ni aba ye hu se nuro no a akola ni di akire ni nyina no akire no benya effect bi enso so betumi aba akola so amakora na ayede atuma yare eti we no eye ade bi a aban no die sene ni se ompese abofra bia be ye adwuma ya ebro na ho de so na emumu no ama kwan se akola bia ayede bitumi ekosu eno ne dache bitumi nya pani ambo topa no yede no dia ama no
At PDA, we have a 4-level child labor remediation approach that we employ within the communities where child labor cases are cited.
In 2018, Beyond Beans and PDA piloted a VSLA project in Bekwai and Sokote districts. In that project, Gender Action and Learning Systems, which is GALS, was integrated into the original VSLA system. And that project was very successful in 2008. So based on that, a child labor component was also introduced into the VSLA GALS system. And this project was started in 2019. And under that project, we formed 100 VSLA groups. So that was the first time we integrated a child labor component into the VSLA and the GALS system.
Mame sukoko na debe. Oru sukoko. Kwa say, omo de e
We saw, based on our observations from the previous project, that the gender action learning systems and the VSLA itself was a very good way to help address the issue of child labor. There are a lot of causes of child labor, but there are two main aspects that the VSLA child project seeks to address. One of the causes of child labor is poverty, or lack of access to financial services by the local farmers. And so the VSLA system helps the farmers to save and also to borrow when they are in need. In economics, there is a theory called permanent income hypothesis. And what it says is that people will like to spend based on their expected long-term income. But farmers receive their cocoa proceeds, they spend all, they don't have opportunity to save, and when they are in need, they don't have any body to borrow from. So the VSLA gives them the opportunity to save when they have excess and also borrow when they are in need. So that is one way of the VSLA system helping to address the issue of lack of financial services by the farmers.
VSLA no aboa me pa nyankopon se enka no kore ne edi kan na minisika bia me didi dwa nti ne nkrofo sika na meje na me de atoto na kakra menya ho na maye nti eba na me se saade a meto susu ni bi nti kakra me toko kakra na me bo obosia Adwuma na mde kwan de Nyankopon se nkan kora boa me ye se da medi loto no. Bo ho ma me na me kotua me bosia no. Na me kura me am sika no. Nti dia me pe bia na metimi e de fa nti na me nya adwuma baako. Ye sua ade wo ho e ma me hu se ye de botaye esisi ye ni so. Nti me de botaye ni bi si mani so se adwuma susu amitui me de baby bi na da ache se me de aka asam nti dem bi si mani so no afi ni du am che me sika no ana me jo so me kokko sika kakran so to ho ana me de kan ho na me de koto fridge na me de be si ho nti fridge ni de esi ho nti esan sha ase afi na me ese fridge ni me ma ni si ho keke esa me de ya adwuma na me nya so mfa so nti me san kwọ bo obosia biem e de kofa enam e de begum nti sese no ano so metonton akakra me se da bi me ya enam no se da be ye be ko ntemti menwa me ne kalomu na ma pensa nti me ko obi otwa abe hwa na makoto nsa ne bi e de aba na me no anam na me de ton nti VSA ne de sheda aboa me yankasa amene manya dwetire nti diam de asimani so enne am se maye sese ni sa afi we die se urade boa me a manya mensa no adwuma me ye die me target ya ne se esa me ma abobo ya so ebesi me fia.
So what is unique about the VSLE child methodology? Unlike the other forms of child labor remediation, which deals with sharing of items to school children and giving money to farmers, is that this one treats the root causes of child labor because it addresses the lack of financial services from the farmers, and it also addresses the sociocultural causes of child labor.
Specifically, Mensah Central, if actually what cases we have been recording throughout the year is just like all the time is just like single parenting. And single parenting, when it comes, especially the men will always deny the being like supporting the women about how to take care of the children. And by so doing, the female alone cannot specifically take care of the children. And by so doing, you see that the children have to do other means to fence for themselves. And that brings about the mass number of child labor in the district, the high increase of child labor in the district, which doesn't help the development of the district. Some years ago, you could see that this district was even having, excuse me to say, it was among the districts that were recording armed robbery cases because of school dropout and child labor. There was a situation whereby even we went to Bene. While it was, I think, Wednesday or Tuesday, they don't go to 2 children dropped into the mining pit. And the one with the highest age was even 15. Yeah. And we talked to them, and yet the following week, Kente, another child also drowned into the mining pit because of what? Child labor. And for all you know, they did not go there alone. They went with some of their parents. And while they are working at the blind side, they do not even know their children are entering into a very dangerous zone. And it has happened. So by now I can see that if we just deliberately move into communities just to do a research, you see that it is not totally eradicated, but the number has been reduced drastically. And participating development associate, I think you have a plus. You have a plus.
At PDA, we have a 4-level child labor remediation approach that we employ within the communities where child labor cases are cited. Level 1 is where we work with the community as a whole through the community action planning process to identify the challenges and then also allow the community to come out with solutions to how to address child labor within the community. The second level is where the school level intervention, where these cases that have been identified are supported to be in school. Now, some of these cases usually are not in school. Some of them have dropped out. Some of them have graduated from the junior high school. So those who have dropped out, we usually work with them to find out whether they are interested in going back to school, and then we give them that support that they need to enroll back in school, through bridging classes and all that. So those who are out of school too, what we do is that we work with the entire household to identify a trade of interest. And then we help them together with the master craftsmen enroll these children, support them with the necessary tools and equipment that they need to learn this trade. And then we also visit them occasionally to ensure that they have that mind to learn the trade.
Sisi ejuma we aboa me e wo kwan bebre so. If you say na me wo fie na me nyehwe nke say be like me hu me na mfo na omo kɔ ejuma mo kɔ ba na eye me ya. Nti na me pese me sua na me de bebo me bra daachi.
The third phase is where we also work with the household of the cases that we have identified. Some of them, as we all know, poverty is strongly linked to child labor. So what we do is that we help them to also identify alternative livelihood opportunities within their area. Some of these opportunities include vegetable farming, soap making, plantain, sucker multiplication, and all that. So we help these farmers to learn these things and then to establish, to enable them generate extra income to support these children. The fourth and the final model or approach is the household economic empowerment model. Child labor, as I've already indicated, is caused by poverty, and the long-term solution lies in sustained economic growth. So under this model, we work with farmers, smallholder farmers, to build their savings culture through the VSLA approach. And then also through the alternative livelihood approaches, we help farmers to identify and start an alternative income generating activity to generate income to support their household.
We know within Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, we have a total of 2 million farmers, approximately, making up for 10 million children in the various households. Beyond Beans as a foundation is tasked with making sure that the communities where we source cocoa are free of child labor. And so that's how we have sustainable cocoa. And so for each cocoa that we sell, each bag or each ton of cocoa we sell, we get premium paid back to us to ensure that the cocoa we are selling to traders are sustainable. What I mean by sustainable is to ensure that we are not going to, in the future, not be able to have cocoa. So sustaining the cocoa means that we are treating child labor, we are treating deforestation, we are preventing activities of restoring forests that have been degraded, and then illegal mining operations, also restoring those kind of sites. So these are things that Beyond Beans does to ensure that we have sustainable cocoa.
So at ECOM, our approach to addressing child labor basically is hybrid. So we use the supply chain and also the community approach, where supply chain, what we do is that because we source from specific farmers, we make sure that we monitor the farmers in our different programs to make sure that they are not involving, like they are not recruiting children to work, and we sensitize them also on child labor. You realize that not all the farming household may be at the same level of economic resilience. So there are some farmers that may find themselves in communities where, based on our monitoring activities, may be categorized at high risk of child labor. So for those farmers within these areas, we have a way of targeting them with specific interventions like Village Savings and Loans Association, schools, depending on the need of the community. There are areas where we establish community child protection committees. There are areas where we are even introducing income generation activities. So basically, providing interventions that addresses the root causes of child labor.
One major learning from the VSLA Child project is that farmers, when given the needed education and support, can be their own actors of change. and they don't need to wait for anybody to come in to give them handouts, but then they can remediate their own child labor cases when they are given the right support.
In one of my field visits, in one of the child labor areas, I went to the education director for this particular district to seek his permission to grant us the permission to train the teachers in the schools within the child labor endemic areas in a concept that we were deploying, which is the phonics by phone. When we went, this director flatly told us that child labor does not exist in Ghana. Organizations we are riding behind child labor just to get funding to implement something that is non-existent. For me, what I learned from this man is that even the leaders who are supposed to lead the fight, most of them still have misconceptions about child labor. Until that misconception is scrapped or is addressed, we will still continue to have some of these challenges within the community because some don't even believe it exists.
One of the key learnings for us is that child labor is a socio-economic issue and it is systemic. And what I mean by this is that one single person cannot really address the issue of child labor. And it's embedded in the social norms. For instance, a family with 6 children, when there's opportunity for them to harvest cocoa, okay, when they look at their economic situation, they may not be able to hire labor and pay for it to go and gather or harvest the cocoa they need. They will immediately resort to, using the help of their children to help them collect the cocoa pod to be able to get their daily income or something that they can depend on. But the caveat is, once you are falling on your child as help, it shouldn't, deny the child of the ability to go to school or even harm the health or affect the development of the child. But here is the case that the person's survival depends on how much he or she is able to make from the cocoa. So there's a lot more education that we need to do to be able to kind of change the mindset of people in terms of using children as laborers.
Over a period of 1 year, the 100 VSLA groups that were formed under the VSLA Child Project cumulatively saved around 1.2 million Ghana cedis. And because the money was given out as loans to 1,258 of their members, they had interest on the money, and the interest they earned on the money was around 200,000 Ghana cedis. Based on the success of the 100 VSLA groups that were formed under the VSLA Child Project, we are replicating it in other African countries. We formed 11 VSLA groups in Cameroon, and those 11 VSLA groups have gone ahead to form additional 20 groups. So currently we have 31 VSLA groups in Cameroon. We have formed 29 VSLA groups in Côte d'Ivoire under the VSLA Child methodology. We are currently forming other VSLA groups in Côte d'Ivoire as well. That is 60 of them under the same VSLA Child methodology. We are doing 80 VSLA groups in Ghana and still under the VSLA Child methodology. And it's our hope that the VSLA Child methodology will become the #1 child labor remediation methodology in the cocoa industry.